One is needs must be understood. And the solution must fit the way people undertake the key activity you're dealing with. Above all, it must fit with how they want to do it. Again, think of this. These two are fundamental requirements. And he adds, it is understanding that marks the difference between innovation and bright ideas. The latter are rarely successful as innovations. An estimated less than 1 in 500 patents ever really establishes itself as successful. Why? Because most bright ideas occur in a vacuum, in the lab or a studio, and ideas conceived in a vacuum rarely work. They may be internally innovative and coherent, but have no resonance with persons, or incongruous when put into the world. I think I mentioned to some of you the conveyor car player. Fabulous, but impossible. So successful design innovation begins with users, depends on understanding, above all the way people would like to understand, and dependent on a wide range and analysis of the total situation in which the innovation is going to work. And it's understanding that is the real key to real creativity. An inspired riff on something understood deeply. Creativity should be judged not for whether it's original or unique, or seems to be, but whether it changes the way we think. Let's turn to Beck, see how he understood the situation. And I want to go through this. I'm going to push this lecture a bit because I want to take you through this because it's relevant to you thinking this project. Beck is our actor. What do we know about him and what resources does he have? 1931, 29 years old, just married, unemployed, laid off in the Depression. When in work, he works as an electrical draftsman for London Underground. Not a trained graphic designer, but later in his life teaches typography. Daily traveller on the Underground, archway to Acton on the Piccadilly line, which is the line that is modernising. To which we have to add one more key fact, and this really relates it to the 21st century designer. He's not commissioned to do the job. The project of tidying up the existing map is his own project. What can we understand about it? 2 points jump out. Daily traveller and unemployed when in work he works for the London Underground. What does it tell us? It tells us that Beck is the user of the system. Cannot be overestimated. Why? Because he can draw on his daily experience, as I want you to do for your final project. He has first-hand understanding of what users' needs and desire from the subway map. He can, because he travels, in a sense, he travels through the system. That's what I wanted to get at with this illustration here. This great illustration from the 1920s showing the lines intersecting at the Piccadilly Circus. Beck's notion is now you're not travelling on but through the city. You're travelling through the city. What matters is not geography but how many stops you travel and how and when you need to change. Second point, he works for London Underground. Born in 1902, he's grown up with it. In the 1920s, he's watched its modernisation on a daily basis. So he's made aware of the emerging underground policy that connected the engineering side and design for passengers. He will have sensed that, at least in theory, the London Underground should be open to a modern design solution and be aware that passengers on the Underground will be aware of. And he might reasonably have noticed that attitudes to modern building and designing were slowly beginning to change in Britain, especially in fields like transport, speed, entertainment, cinemas, and new kinds of industries. Always the places where new comes in first. So Beck, first-hand experience in the modernisation, seen high levels of design consciousness, sensed something of the attempts of the London Underground to be modern and human, picked up the strong sense of what I'll call the possibilities of a humane form of rationalism appropriate. Above all, he understands that the traveller and the Underground is really passing under, through, not on top of. In these circumstances, he may well have felt that this type of map, with its genteel italic typography, was just not conveying the idea of a modern and rational subway. It's about 1950. And he will have also noticed that as early as 1933, this is just when the map comes out, London Transport itself is actually advertising. I only just found this poster. I've never seen it. Pretty interesting. Advertising, both proud of its new architecture. Come and see it. Come and look at it. So they're proud of them and modernity. But there's still the question of why Beck decides on radical geometrical simplification. What resources does he have? Go back to the list of 6 factors. And look at these 2 in red. When he works as an electrical draftsman and he's not a trained graphic designer. Why is this important? 3 answers. First of all designers work from the visual and other resources available to them. Secondly, in breaking with the map, Beck needed to break with graphic conventions, not use them. And in making a new kind of map, Beck had to have some kind of alternative model or metaphor in mind. Look at the second point here. If we look at this attempt by a professional graphic designer to redesign the map, we can see how Gwyn's attempt is limited by the graphic conventions of the time. He deploys lots of graphic conventions, and these maps are kind of compromised between rationalization, diagram, map. It doesn't really know what it is. It's half and half. Beck is involved in different experiences. He works in the signals office on circuits and diagrams, where there is, by definition, a simplification of the systems. Signal is interested in flows. Electrical circuits are diagrams of flows and resistance. Is this not a good metaphor for the underground system? Flow diagrams were already used in planning stations in the 1930s, so flow diagrams play into this. And we guess that Beck did in fact base this on his experience with electrical circuits, because when he went back to being an electrical draftsman, when he was rehired back full time, he made a Christmas card one year here, which converted his diagram back into an electrical circuit. So Beck has experience to employ diagrams, an understanding of how geometric relations help clarity and understanding. So he's aware of the significance of graphic form both in purely visual terms and as an aid to understanding, and was probably aware of parallel attempts to go from map to diagram. Final points. 29, unemployed, not commissioned to do the job. What does this tell us? Great age for innovation, old enough for experience, young enough to take a risk. Time on his hands, really important, time to invent and do the work of making a presentation. See, when you're unemployed after this, use it well. Most importantly, it's not just a job, it's a project for Beck. And look at that last bit. This is not a job. Because he's offering something new, he must offer something better. And that's really important. He must give he's taking something away. He's going to take away the map. He's got to give something back. And that's really, really important to understand. This last. So what Beck is doing then is actually also, we can see, a term I've used before, is making an affirmation. It's proposing that we can cut the Gordonian knot, the impossibilities, on condition, of course, by the Earth's time, a certain number of parameters be abandoned, a certain number of novelties introduced. So Beck's problem, the realization that it's not possible to have geographical accuracy, clarity, comprehensiveness, and persuasiveness. Something has got to go. Some parameters have got to go, something new is introduced. This is what he does. Here's his first rough sketch from 1931, now in the V&A Museum. What he does is affirm, in effect, that 3 of the 4 problems of the map, clarity, comprehensiveness, and persuasiveness, can be solved by the simple device of imposing geometry on the system of lines. Geometry is his novelty, geographical accuracy is the parameter abandoned. So, he abandons geographical accuracy in favor of a diagram, geometry, and severe restrictions on the rules, horizontal, vertical, and 45-degree angles only for the lines. He makes a presentation rough in 1931, shows it to the publicity department. They reject it. Beck's friends persuade him to resubmit it, and late in 1932 the department agrees to a first printing. Why? I think massively any innovation has to do with timing and circumstances. In 1932, the system is actively modernizing. There might have been more of a felt need to upgrade the map, and Beck's diagram can be seen as a fit to the emerging stations on the underground system. Look how well it fits. There it is on the right-hand side, in a very nice large form that no longer could do. But it looks exactly fits to the emerging option. And I think actually the publicity department, 1931, they perhaps were not sufficiently yet aware of what was happening almost on their own system. 1932, I guess they were, and suddenly it realized. So Beck does a working proof hand-lettered for the first leaflet, 1933. So immediately making improvements. This is the first card folder done in January 1933. And it's an absolute instant success, complete success. First major printing is for 500,000, and it just goes on. I tried to work out how many billions we printed, and I just gave up. Response to the public of the diagram. Sorry, the first printing was 750,000. Yeah. Why did people take so quickly to it? This is Ken Garland, who is the historian of Beck and the Underground Map. Perhaps the answer lies in the fact it was so obviously useful. People couldn't resist its helpful character, appreciated instinctively that its designer, himself an ordinary tube-traveling commuter, was concerned for their information needs and not for novelty of its own sake. The rest, as they say, is history. The first poster appeared in the late summer of 1933. New printings followed, Beck's already revising the design. For the next 25 years, Beck works on the diagram in his spare time from his full-time position as a draftsman with London Transport. Now I'm going to stop there because otherwise we will go on till at least 2:30. I can see people want to get into here and do various things. What I wanted to go, I've pushed the time limit on this because I wanted to take you through innovation. I wanted to take you through, as it were, kind of what I would call homemade innovation. And I also wanted to show you that once you begin to analyze, break down a problem and a possibility, it is possible to kind of reconstruct the processes of innovations, to begin to grasp how they happen. What I'll try and show you next time, although I don't know how to do it with the next lecture I have planned, is the complexity of what Beck achieves through his configuration. Because we might well argue that all Beck does is change a few lines. Therefore, does anything really alter? The part of the lecture I can't show you today is how much changing a few lines alters the distribution. It's a bit like a road forking. At first, when a road forks away from another one, it appears to be going almost parallel. But then after, Beck's diagram is the fact it goes off into another territory. It acts other. And I wanted to show you how many dimensions it acts other on. I got up to about 28 last night. Anyway, enough, and we will continue this.